Cuba's National Assembly of People's Power is set to hold its first ordinary period of sessions this year on October 28th. The US Federal Bureau of Investigation foiled a plot to kidnap the Michigan Democratic governor in order to spark a civil war. This Friday, Armenia and Azerbaijan began their first high-level talks after nearly 2 weeks of clashes over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. And we begin in Cuba, where the President of the National Assembly of People's Power convened the 5th ordinary period of sessions of the Cuban Parliament to begin October 28th. This will be the first meeting with lawmakers present this year, as the session that is usually held in the middle of the year was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Assembly President Esteban Lasso summoned the lawmakers in a brief statement without offering details on the agenda. The last time the Cuban Parliament sessioned was in December 2019, when Manuel Marrero was appointed Prime Minister. The pandemic also delayed extraordinary parliamentary sessions in which lawmakers were due to discuss several bills following the approval of a new constitution last year. The President of Ecuador's National Electoral Council, Diana Atamant, confirmed on Friday that the European Union will participate as an observer in the general election scheduled for February 2021. The announcement was made after a meeting at the institution's headquarters with the ambassador of the regional bloc to Ecuador, Charles Mitchell Gertz. According to the electoral official, observers will visit the country as a reinforced team of electoral experts. Meanwhile, Ambassador Gertz stressed the importance of strengthening the democratic process in Ecuador and emphasized that the team of observers will be independent. In addition to the European Union, observation support is expected from other international bodies, including the Inter-American Union of Electoral Organizations, Electoral Transparency, and the Association of World Election Bodies. We now go to Bolivia, where our correspondent Camila Escalante has the latest details on the current situation in the lead up to the October 18th general election.
The movement towards socialism's Luis Arce has denounced the intensification of the war against him as he remains the front runner in all polls, and as the big media works closely with the right wing to try to go after his character and cast him as some sort of a corrupt person. But it seems that this won't resonate with voters. Arce has called it a dirty war against the movement towards socialism, which is being intensified as we near election day. He said this was an attack by those who desperately want to remain in power without submitting themselves to the popular vote. Those who fear the polls, they who know that the people disapprove of their lousy mismanagement of the country and who've made a lifestyle of lying, political persecution, violence, and repression. Also on Thursday, Luis Arce connected with Argentine President Alberto Fernandez, and among other things, they discussed the right of the Bolivian people to cast their vote in the exterior, Argentina being the country with the largest population outside of Bolivia. The Progressive Public Group has confirmed participation of a delegation which will arrive here next week. They say they'll be attending electoral events to facilitate and guarantee the exercise of the right of Bolivians to elect and be elected.
Thank you, Camila. And we move to Colombia now, where social organizations denounced the assassination of indigenous leader Eluquio Pascual Rodriguez this Friday. Rodriguez belonged to the High Guard of the La Brava Indigenous Reservation, located in a rural area of the municipality of Tumaco in the state of Nariño. According to the Institute for Development and Peace Studies, the victim arrived at his home around 7 a.m. local time, where armed men were waiting for him and gunned him down. The assassination of the indigenous leader is the 225th murder of a social leader in Colombia so far this year. Human rights defenders have highlighted that during the course of this year, 66 massacres have been committed in the country, of which 15 took place in the department of Antioquia. This Friday, progressive organizations in Haiti will demand justice and compensation from the United Nations for the victims of the cholera epidemic, which killed some 10,000 people and infected almost 1 million. the Haitian platform to advocate alternative development, human rights organizations, the Popular and Democratic Movement, among others, held a symbolic tribunal this Friday to debate the UN presence in the country, especially the UN stabilization mission in Haiti. Some 10,000 soldiers from 40 countries with budgets that sometimes exceeded $600 million were spread throughout all territories with the argument of pacifying the country after the second coup against President Jean-Bertrand Aristide. This mission is accused of introducing a Nepal strain of cholera which unleashed an epidemic in the country. In Argentina, the iconic Hotel Baun, located in the center of Buenos Aires, which became famous for the political celebrities it hosted and due to the struggles of its workers to keep the hotel going, is set to close because of the huge debts caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Located in a historic building and managed by a cooperative, the hotel is legendary due to the decades of hard work of its workers who have hosted major political events such as solidarity festivals, late Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez, and more recently the former president of Bolivia, Evo Morales. Our correspondent Juan Carlos Bartolota has the story from Buenos Aires.
Were 70 years of a struggle and it became a symbol of a company recovered by its workers. But the economy, the justice system and the pandemic finally were stronger than the struggle to survive. And now the facilities of this great Porteño hotel will be left by those who made it work as a cooperative. The Bowen Hotel will remember, and although it will remain empty, it will also be an example of the workers' struggle.
What we did here was with a lot of effort because all that was rescued was not here. This part, for example, the truth is that we invested to keep working and, well, whatever we did will remain. We have all the strength to continue, not to fall because that does not help us in any way. We are hard workers, we know about working hard, and we are not afraid of starting again.
While selling furniture, dishes and other stuff to pay debts, Eva remembers emotional the help they received and also the help they gave.
The people from the provinces who came and got taken care and didn't have a place, and we gave them a bed, something to eat, but, well, the truth is, this hurts me because those people will not have a place and we gave them everything, a plate of hot food, and they were able to get the treatment they needed.
At the Bowen, as it is commonly known, there were tens of solidarity festivals, but also relevant personalities of all Latin America. The delegation of former President Chavez has stayed here many times, like having the hotel as a permanent headquarters in Buenos Aires. The same with President Evo Morales and a great part of his cabinet. This year, after he came to Argentina, he says as a joke that this hotel is like Palacio Quemado in Buenos Aires. Then the idea of moving has to do with rescuing all that. The cooperative will continue to operate until the end of October, where a new stage will begin, but without the building that they defended so much, suffering anguish, fear and sometimes loneliness in the fight to keep the Bowen alive. However, they will not give up now, like they did not in the past.
After this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In the United States, the FBI says it has foiled a plot to abduct and overthrow Michigan's Democratic Governor, Gretchen Whitmer. The politician has become a target for coronavirus skeptics and has been called Hitler after enacting strict measures against COVID-19 that were overturned by a judge last week. Officials said the kidnapping plot involved 6 men who planned to hold a treason trial for her. The FBI found out about the militia group thanks to an undercover law enforcement source who attended a June meeting in Dublin, Ohio, where a group of Michigan-based militia members discussed overthrowing state governments that they believed were violating the US Constitution. The men have links to a militia group that grew online called the Boogaloo Boys, a reference to the US Civil War. In a press conference on Thursday, the governor linked the plot against her to the rhetoric of President Donald Trump, who in April tweeted "Liberate Michigan," boosting the anti-lockdown demonstrations that saw armed protesters taking over the streets. Meanwhile, Trump tweeted a few hours ago that Whitmer has done a terrible job and accused her of being ungrateful to his administration.
Earlier today, Attorney General Dana Nessel was joined by officials from the Department of Justice and the FBI to announce state and federal charges against 13 members of 2 militia groups who were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me. When I put my hand on the Bible and took the oath of office 22 months ago, I knew this job would be hard. But I'll be honest, I never could have imagined anything like this.
The head of Advocacy and Public Policy at Oxfam, an international confederation of anti-poverty charities, has stressed that government should implement policies that reduce the gap between the rich and the poor so that countries are more prepared for crises like the COVID-19 pandemic.
Only 1 in 6 countries worldwide, according to Oxfam's research, was spending enough on health when the pandemic hit. And over 100 countries had a situation where at least 1 in 3 of their workers had no protections, nothing like sick pay or benefits. So you can see that the impact of the crisis, both the health crisis and the economic crisis, has been much worse because governments did not have the kinds of policies in place that would reduce the gap between rich and poor and leave them better prepared for the pandemic.
Spain's government declared a state of emergency in and around the capital Madrid on Friday to enforce a partial lockdown to curb rampant virus infections, overriding opposition from the regional authorities. The decision comes as Madrid is experiencing a surge in COVID-19 cases. Spain reported nearly 5,600 new cases in the last 24 hours, for a total of more than 880,000. The country's COVID-19 death toll is one of the highest in the continent at more than 32,000. The Spanish health minister stressed that measures must be taken to protect the health of the people of Madrid and to prevent the further spread of the coronavirus to other regions of the country. Hundreds of thousands of vulnerable people living in coronavirus hotspots in the United Kingdom could be told to isolate this winter under government plans in the face of soaring infections. The plans, reportedly being considered by the British government, would take a terrible toll on people living alone and particularly on those with mental health issues. The government says it's business as usual for NHS mental health services, but charities say there isn't enough support. Some local groups are so concerned about the effects of loneliness during the pandemic that they're taking to the streets to offer their support directly to members of the public in need.
Very clear as the government that the NHS and all its mental health services are absolutely open for business and people should be taking advantage of that.
The response was so great when we put the appeal out.
Yeah.
What I didn't expect was so many people coming to us saying they didn't know they could talk to people, there's no one they could talk to.
It's really, really lovely, like knowing that you can go and speak to people like that, and you can go to groups. It's really nice if you're in a bad place.
And we're very
German authorities continue to express concern over the rapid increase of COVID-19 infections in recent days and have urged citizens to comply with health measures. The country has reported over 4,400 new cases in the last 24 hours, for a total of more than 316,000 confirmed infections.
We want and must together prevent a lockdown. I think this is our common demand, not only for economic reasons. It will be dramatic for the German economy if this happens again, but also for social reasons. In this context, I once again make an urgent appeal to the 20-40-year-old community in big cities to understand that this is not a time for partying, not a time for negligence, but it is a time to protect others, especially the elderly, and prevent the number of infections from exploding.
The United Nations World Food Programme was awarded the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize this Friday for its efforts to combat hunger and food insecurity around the globe.
Good morning. The need for international solidarity and multilateral cooperation is more conspicuous than ever. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2020 to the World Food Programme for its efforts to combat hunger, for its contribution to bettering conditions for peace in conflict-affected areas, and for acting as a driving force in efforts to prevent the use of hunger as a weapon of war and conflict.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. This Friday, Armenia and Azerbaijan began their first high-level talks after nearly 2 weeks of clashes over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region. The Russian president extended the invitation to host the talks after holding conference calls with the president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, and Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, on Thursday. The Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, is mediating these high-level talks between the Azerbaijani and Armenian foreign ministers. The main objective is to negotiate an end to hostilities for humanitarian reasons, an exchange of prisoners, and the handing over of the bodies of those who have been killed in enemy territory during the armed conflict. Syria and Russia concluded a new round of talks this Thursday as part of joint efforts to consolidate and expand bilateral cooperation in all fields. The ongoing cooperation is aimed at mitigating the impact of Western sanctions on the Arab country. Our correspondent Hisham Wanas has the story.
The bilateral talks that took place in Moscow addressed the necessary steps to start bilateral cooperation plans in the sector of trade, agriculture, industry, energy, transportation and water resources, as well as the need to boost trade between Syria and Russia.
The Russian military and political support to Syria has been vital, and now we are working on expanding the Syrian-Russian alliance, which is being consolidated at the economic level through meetings to launch the bilateral cooperation projects in all other areas of the oil industry, health, technology and electricity, as well as in the field of hydroelectric power plants.
At the same time, the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad announced the interest of Damascus in requesting Moscow the supply of the vaccine against COVID-19. The purpose of this exchange is also to address the basic needs of the Syrian people, and to do that, they are studying ways to challenge the Western economic blockade imposed to Syria.
In these circumstances, anyone is interested in receiving the vaccine against this dangerous virus, but I believe that it is not currently available in the world market. And we will discuss the matter with the Russian authorities, so that once it's available, we get it for our people. A matter that we consider very important.
During the first days of last September, an official Russian delegation signed an agreement with the Syrian authorities in Damascus that included more than 40 new projects in the field of reconstruction of the energy sector, a number of hydroelectric power centers, and oil extraction in the sea. This agreement is an important achievement in the field of economic cooperation that both countries consider essential to consolidate their firm political and military alliance.
Authorities in Jordan have imposed a full lockdown for Friday and Saturday to contain a resurgent coronavirus outbreak. Residents were ordered to remain in their homes on Friday and Saturday, the Jordanian weekend, with only medical staff and those carrying out epidemiological investigations permitted to be on the streets. Armed forces were deployed in all cities to observe the implementation of the curfew. Authorities announced that presential classes will be suspended from Friday until further notice.
The curfew on Friday and Saturday is an achievement for us as epidemiological investigation teams. We can easily arrive at the houses, everybody is there. No one at the streets. We have time and we visit more sites. The number of daily infections has reached 1,800 cases. In some cases, it takes about 5 days to check people who were in contact with positive cases. Some cases have had contact with more than 200 people. This is a very large number, but during the curfew on Friday and Saturday, we can achieve more and we can test more people. This process will delay the spread of the virus, but it won't stop it. As epidemiological investigation teams, this curfew helps us.
This Friday, Sophie Petronin, an elderly French aid worker, was released from captivity alongside a top Malian politician after having been presumably held hostage by jihadists since 2016. The two landed in the Malian capital, Bamako, for an emotional reunion with their loved ones.
I'm doing much better. I thank the Malian authorities for all they have done, the French government, who apparently also helped. I spent almost a quarter of a century in the north of this country to take care of the children, malnutrition. I would like to thank my colleagues again. Luckily, my greatest joy today is to know that my assistant was able to continue the war without me. So, for Mali, I will pray and implore the blessing and mercy of Allah, because I'm a Muslim. You say Sophie, but it's Marian that you have in front of you.
In Tunisia, government authorities have decided to re-establish a curfew in the greater metropolitan area of Tunis for 15 days to try to limit the spread of COVID-19. In the upcoming fortnight, traffic will be prohibited from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. during the week and from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. on weekends. The decision was taken following a significant increase in the number of coronavirus cases over the past week. Tunisian health authorities warned that hospitals were struggling to cope with an influx of COVID-19 patients and urged residents to respect health measures. To date, the North African country has confirmed nearly 27,000 COVID-19 cases and over 400 deaths. China, which has at least 4 coronavirus vaccine candidates in the last stage of clinical trials, announced on Friday that it's joining the global COVID-19 vaccine alliance known as COVAX. The country signed an agreement with Gavi, the co-leader of the alliance, with the World Health Organization, which welcomed the move.
We are taking this concrete step to ensure equitable distribution of vaccine, especially to developing countries, and hope more capable countries will also join and support COVAX. As far as I know, quite a lot of Chinese vaccine developers have expressed willingness to join COVAX. The experts of both parties are in communication on vaccine R&D, approval, supervision and technical standards.
And we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.